crime, cases, and backing the blue. Now, here are your hosts, Captain Ed Mehmet and Detective Kevin Schroeder.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Cop Talk. I'm Kevin Schroeder, your host. I'm here with my co-host, Captain Ed Mehmet.
Hello, WABC listeners. Today we have an interesting guest that we've had on before, and I think he's going to do very well in this interview.
So our guest today is Mike Sapraicone. Mike Sapraicone is a retired NYPD detective. He did 20 years with the NYPD. He was a retired first-grade detective, went up to the rank of first grade. He came on in 1980, and he's also a security expert. And as we speak, he's running for U.S. Senate. So welcome, Mike.
Well, Kevin, Cap, thanks a lot for having me. Great to be back with you guys.
Right. As Captain said, we had you on once before, a while back. And we hope to have you continue to have you on until you win the Senate. So welcome,
I hope,
Mike.
Kevin, after I win, I hope I'm back on too. Okay?
Absolutely. You may be a little busy, but that would be great. That would be great.
We'll always find time for you guys.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. So, Mike, just give our audience who maybe never heard of you before or not familiar with NYPD or the Senate race, give them a little background about yourself.
So I came on the job in 1980. I was a transit cop. So I stayed with the transit police until the merger in the mid-90s, I think. And then I went over with Braden and Maple from transit, and we merged with the NYPD. And something that I think they've been looking to do for many, many years and just couldn't logistically put it together. And we had sometimes called it a hostile takeover. And I know, Kevin, you being on the, as we would call street cops and the transit cops, you guys felt the same way a little bit. But, it's worked out. Yes. I do still hear, 20-some years later, people say, oh, you were a transit guy, I'm a street guy, I'm this, I'm that. But it was a great experience for me. When we merged, I was a second grade detective. So I had been in some good positions on the transit police. I was all part of when we started cracking down on subway crime and fare beats. And we started doing, getting strong on recidivists. So we were there for the merge. I stayed around. I stayed till 2000. I made first grade in 1999. Now, Kevin, you're a first grader, I believe, right? And,
yes.
When I made first in 1999, there was only 144 first graders out of about 7,000 detectives. I hear it's a little different now. There's a few more of us than there were then.
Yes. It slowed down. They haven't been many promotions lately. But, yes, when I was in the squad from 97 to the end of 2012, there was a lot of promotions. I mean, Commissioner Kerrick started the promotion, getting the promotions out, second and first grade, and rightfully so. But you're right. Back then, there wasn't many first graders.
A point on that, I think the merger increased the opportunities for promotion. Had you been in transit, I don't think you would have gotten first graded, right? There weren't that many openings.
I disagree with you, Cap. But you're right about the numbers, okay? But I was scared. I thought they were going to make me before the merge, right? I thought I had my best shot at getting made before the merge. I thought that would be like the little incentive. But it wasn't. And I was concerned that it's such a big department. We went from 3,000 transit guys to 35,000, 40,000. And I just saw something in the post today. I think we were at our peak when I retired at about 40,000 compared to what we're at nowadays, right? How the numbers have declined. Yeah. But I was concerned that getting in this big department, I would be, lost in the mix someplace. But if you're a hard worker, and Kevin and Cap, you know this, if you're a hard worker anywhere, and especially in the NYPD, you kind of wind up being in the right place. And they appreciate people who work hard and are dedicated. I was very lucky to be working with people like that and to learn from those type of people and get promoted. So it was a good run there.
Mike, where'd you work I'm sorry. Where'd you work where'd you work in transit? What borough?
Transit, I started out in 33, which was in Brooklyn. And, so when I came on, Kevin, I came on in really the first all transit class in 1980. So there had been no promotions. The layoffs were in 73. There were no promotions. There was no civil service exams, no meritorious promotions. So all the guys, the rookies, had 7 years on, and they were all disgruntled. They were all annoyed and pissed off. There had been no promotion. So nobody really wanted anything. So I was able to, and we say in the bag, right, guys? So I got out of the bag within 18 months, and I was in an anti-crime unit. And then there was an opportunity to go to a citywide, and that was where you got the shield from. And that was unheard of. Like you're talking about how lucky people going up now, they need detectives. So in 82, I winded up in this citywide unit, and I spent 4 years and I got made. I made detective in 1986. I was just 30 years old. And I was pretty young to make detective back then. So I was always worked hard, was in the right places, and the opportunity was there. And if you take advantage of the opportunity, you'll usually do pretty well. And then, so I started a company when I was on a job because I was tired of working three jobs. I would work at Nobody Beats the Whiz. I go do my midnight tour if I was doing midnight work, and Nobody Beats the Whiz in the morning. Go home, watch my kids for a while, and then go deliver Chinese food before I came back in for the night tour. So I said, I should maybe start a security company, and that's what I did back in 1991. And we started out small. And when I sold the company, I sold it in 2022. I had over 800 retired and active cops working for me in New York and Chicago and LA and Vancouver and Toronto, and a whole bunch of guys, ex-military guys working for me in Europe. And I've just sold that company in April of this year. And now I'm fully retired. My wife says we're a one-income family. If I buy a car, I guess I put retired. I don't even know what to do. But so that gave me the opportunity now to run for the United States Senate. And I know, Cap, you might have a question in there or so you want to throw at me before I ramble on.
So before we get into the Senate race, just to bring it back to your detective days, what were some of the challenging cases you recall working on?
Well, they would make fun of me. I spent more time in the morgue when I was working some homicides. I'd love to go to the morgue. I thought it was really important to be at the morgue the next morning. You learn so much. I remember a homicide I had in the Rockaways where a guy, a waiter from the New York deli in Manhattan, was kicked down the stairs, right? And at Mott Avenue, if anybody remembers in Queens, that's a long staircase. It seemed like it's about a mile long. And I remember being able at the autopsy to get a footprint. We actually got a foot mark off the back of the guy, a sneaker mark, how hard he had kicked them. And we're able to tie that into a few suspects we had. Now, I thought that was very interesting. I think one of the better cases I ever had, though, is I think back right before the merge in 93 or 94, there was a big explosion on the number 4 train at Fulton Street, downtown Manhattan. Somebody had blown up the train with an incendiary device.
Remember that.
And he ran through the tunnels from Manhattan to Brooklyn and got out through St. George's Hotel in Brooklyn. And he was arrested there. He was on fire and everything else. And I remember I was the lead detective. It was my case. I remember going up to the hospital to talk to him. And I remember he was having a conversation about why he had committed the crime. And it became a pretty big case. He ended up going away for 98 years. He burnt over 90 people, but killed no one, thank God. But a lot of people seriously burned in that case. I remember also, just quickly, in the 7-7 back in the mid-90s, we had Glocks. The transit police detectives got Glocks in the middle of the 90s, and we were the first ones to really get them. And that was Commissioner Braden, or Chief Braden at the time, brought them to us. And I had an officer shot off a ricochet of a tree on Utica Avenue in the 7-7. I remember going to the Kings County Hospital, interviewing. I got dressed up. I don't know if you can do these things anymore, but I get dressed up like a doctor. I put the whole gown and everything on. I went into the ER. Nobody said anything. I was fine. And I'm interviewing the guy. And he says, well, he said the story initially when he got shot was that he didn't know they were cops. He couldn't tell that the guy he shot at was a plainclothes detective. So in the emergency room, when they're getting ready to put medication and everything else, right before that, I said to him, "So what happened? Oh, those freaking cops! Oh man, I should have killed them all. I can't believe the cops were coming at me." So that was a big part of the testimony, that he had told everybody else. He didn't know they were cops, but he told me they were cops. Yeah. So those are some of the things I remember.
This National Foster Care Month, Marine Toys for Tots is providing hope to children who need it most. Staff Sergeant James Caldwell, who grew up in foster care himself, shares that while handing out gifts at a Toys for Tots distribution event, a little girl looked up at him, reached into her bag, pulled out a stuffed animal and said, "Someone needs to make sure you get a toy too." That simple gesture embodies the heart of Marine Toys for Tots, ensuring every child, including those in foster care, experiences the kindness that can transform their future. Visit toysfortots.org today.
Cap?
Mike, you bring back memories. You mentioned the morgue. When I was in the police academy, it was mandatory that the class went to the morgue. And I remember a couple of guys fainting. So they told us.
I do remember that also. Right.
Yeah, our class instructor said everybody bring smelling salts. So, and we were all in our early 20s.
Put the Vicks underneath your nose, right?
Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
So but I had a lot of experience there when I was a detective. Because in my homicides, you had to go and to the autopsy to see if you can pick up any information.
Right.
So that was good. And you mentioned something else. I'm trying to remember what it was. Not the morgue. Oh, anyway, we'll go on to something else. If I remember it, I'll bring it up. Cashless bail. Of course, that's a major problem today. If you are elected, and we hope you are, and you go to the U.S. Senate, we know that your powers are restricted to federal issues. But can you think of any way that you could address the problem as a U.S. Senator, this cashless bail problem that we have now that's ruining us and causing a high crime rate?
It's so ridiculous. And, in Nassau and Suffolk County, several years ago, we were able to elect Republican district attorneys, Annie Donnelly in Nassau and Ray Tierney in Suffolk, based on that whole thing alone, based on how upset people are with cashless bail. But federally, I'm an old school board president from Seaford, Long Island, and I look at the governor standing up on a podium, and if she doesn't like what the schools are doing, she threatens to hold back funding. She puts everybody at bay and says, well, I'm not going to fund these programs if you don't do what I want. And I think as a federal government, as an employee of the federal government and U.S. Senator to the state of New York, we need to take a look at these bills and these bail reforms. And maybe we need to hold back some federal money in some of the things we do. As far as sanctuary cities, sanctuary states, we need to take a stand and with bail reform and say, well, maybe we're not going to fund some of your programs if you guys don't come on board and start wising up a little bit.
Well, that's a good way. So that's sort of like a backdoor way of addressing the problem with funding.
I think so. I think that's important sometimes in our lives, right? As police officers and detectives and supervisors, we understand how you handle that backdoor stuff, right? And how important that comes out as you negotiate some things, right?
As a senator, how would you balance close with police reform with ensuring enforcement agencies that have the tools they need to keep the community safe?
Well, you talk about the far left side's talking about defunding the police. We need not to defund, but we need to give them more money and more help so that they get the proper tools they need to do their jobs. Okay. And it seems that, we go up and down the board, everybody just wants to not support the police. Everybody wants to come out and speak about how terrible it is. Look what's going on in the city of New York, just with the whole city council. I'm probably not going to call it the right name, but this program where they came out with where cops need to do more paperwork on every stop. If you think about how many people we stop in the course of a day, or how many people we have contact, and I'm not talking about stop and frisk kind of stops, just on a homicide investigation, how many people you talk about on a robbery case, on any kind of case, you interview quickly, maybe 20, 30 people. Now you're going to stop and put that information down somewhere for what? Because the city council wants to hold you accountable that you're not doing anything. CompStat was important back in the 90s, Kevin. You remember in Cap when Braden and Maple came up with that kind of, and I tell Commissioner Braden all the time, and he tells me, Maple was a big part of that. Jack's the way Jack put that together, and the ability Commissioner Braden has to surround himself with the right people. That all worked. It was perfect timing when we did CompStat and report people to hold accountability. But the city council is trying to hold guys on the street accountable for every single person they talk to. We need to be realistic. They have to do their jobs. They have to interact with people. They can't be wasting their time sitting down writing. I spoke to Kevin S., and he's a male white 27, or Cindy is a male black 32, and she lives we're wasting time. And there's no accountability, no need for that accountability. So I think sometimes we need to step in and get back to reality.
Well, again, as a federal U.S. senator, the question is how do you do that? Again, is it a question of holding back money? I don't know if the council gets money from the federal government. The police department, I believe, does.
Well, I think, Captain, maybe money is, of course, all part of it, but I think we need a voice that stands up for our people, our police officers in this city and this state. Right now, we don't have that voice. In Kirsten Gillibrand, I make fun. Being a cop, I walk around and I tell people, listen, if you put her in a lineup, you can't even pick her out. And, most people as I travel the state are saying they agree. She's MIA. No one sees her. She's nowhere. Who is she standing up for? Who is she supporting? She's not supporting our police. She's not supporting our constituents. She's nowhere. She's nowhere to be seen. And I think, we understand as cops, and on Cop Talk, we understand how to talk to people, how to interact with people, how to have those situations where we're able to explain things. We're not getting that from our representation in Washington, and we need that. That's important.
Well, she probably takes her orders from Schumer. So.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt she does. But I think that'll be a rude awakening. And if I have 2 seconds, I'll tell a quick detective story. And I don't know, Kevin, you agree with this or you, Cap. I remember being a brand new detective in 1986. And I'm in District 4. And they ran District 4 the way they wanted to run it. It's an old transit district by West by 14th Street. And I remember the old seasoned detective was a real pain in the neck guy. And he wanted this way. And it wasn't really working. So I said to the squad boss, I said, listen, could I change this stuff? And he said, yeah, go ahead, change it, kid. Change a couple of things. So I went and I changed some stuff around. And the detective said, hey, let me tell you something, kid. You be quiet. You sit here and you learn for 5 or 6 years, and then you can talk. And I said, you know what? I said, see my shield? It's about the same color gold as yours. So yours is just a little more worn. I don't know why it's worn. You haven't done anything for the last 15 years. I said, but this is the way we're going to do things. And we're on the same level. And you know what? He went along with the program, and he liked some of the things I did, and I started liking some of the things he did. But I think Schumer is going to have a rude awakening, because I'm going to say, Senator, it's great to meet you. You're the senior senator from New York, but you know what? I might be the junior senator, but I'm on the same level here. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to work hard. If you want to be part of this team and work together with me, I'll work with you. You work with me, but I'm not following you around. That's not the way it's playing either.
Well, that's good. He needs,
maybe a cop thing. What do you think? I don't know.
I agree.
Well,
I agree.
He needs somebody to compete with. I guess he's become complacent. He thinks he can do anything he wants because she won't, challenge him. She's
right.
Same of ilk. Now, this is very hot. This topic, border security, big problem. Now, this is where you would come in because it's a federal situation, and ICE is handcuffed. What would you do to strengthen border security and just, address the entire problem? Make this illegal alien situation, make it, just end it.
Well, it's tied in. Crime, illegal immigration, like a domino effect. They work together, right? But the part of the problem is here under Trump, we had a plan, right? We have no plan. When Biden came in, he went and signed these executive orders to open up the border completely. So everybody yelling about asylum seekers, there used to be a rule. You had to be religiously persecuted or persecuted through a government. Now everybody puts asylum. Everybody comes in. We don't have enough judges to deal with these cases. We don't have enough border patrol to take care of it. And people said, well, why didn't the Republicans go along with the program of letting 5,000 people in the country a day? Because that would have worked with Ukraine and Israel and China with aid. And it wouldn't. We need to stop it. Zero. No tolerance. Nobody comes into the border until they're vetted properly, until we have enough people in place. Shut it down. Last year alone, 150 people. 150. This is a nothing number. Were found to be on the terrorist watch list. Out of the millions of people, 2.5 million people or so that came into this country last year, we only had contact with 150 people that were on that terrorist watch list. So what keeps you up at night? How many other people did we didn't get to vet or check that are on that terrorist watch list that are sitting in our country now? And we know for a fact, listen, New York's always been, we go back to 9/11, and New York's always been a place where we're going to be hit first. We're an issue. We're the greatest city in the world. We're the greatest state in this country. They're going to come to us first. So that's terrible. We have no plan B there. As I speak to people up in Clinton County, upstate New York, our border on the northern border is the largest border in this country with Canada. The young lady from Clinton County told me her parents moved from Brooklyn years and years ago so they could see the stars at night. And now all they see are helicopter lights because of the illegal immigrants coming across from Canada. That's increased over 250% this year alone, okay, coming into Canada. And we don't even speak about that. No one talks about it. Is Gillibrand talking about it? Is Biden talking about it? Is Schumer? Nobody's talking about it. We need to acknowledge that, and we need to do something there. So that's definitely a funding thing. It's definitely something where we say, stop it. Stop. And we have the majority in the House. And I hope when we win this seat, this will give us the majority in the Senate. Okay. And we will start. And then when the president wins, when Trump wins, this will put us back in a situation where we're able to control the border and control and make it a better place and a safer place for all of us.
You mentioned Trump. I've said this before in previous interviews. He said that if he's elected, he will have the largest deportation program in history. And I said that to do that, you'd have to use the local police agencies. Not that they would go rounding up people that they think are illegal just by looking at them. But if the illegals come in contact with the police, through traffic violations or domestic fights or whatever, that's when the police, in my opinion, should get involved. Do you agree with that?
I agree 100% with you. I mean, and there's so, and it goes back to cashless bail. It goes back to everything. There's so many contacts, so many interactions we have with illegal people that shouldn't be here. Instead of bringing them into the court and the court setting them free, look at the cops who got beat up at Times Square a couple of months ago, right? Those guys, they were in Arizona or wherever the heck they were, right? I don't even know if we've gotten them all back yet. There was a big problem with the AG in Arizona. They didn't want to send them, or the DA in the city in Arizona didn't want to send them back to Bragg. So, yeah, I agree with you 1,000%. And that's how we're going to start to move them out. We need to shut it down and start deporting people. When those cops got beat up at Times Square, Hochul got on a brand new subway car. She was, pitching a brand new subway car, and she had the audacity to say, well, they should be deported. Well, they shouldn't be here in the first place. You let them in, your policies let them in, and now you want to play Monday morning quarterback, and now you want to deport them. Hey, let's play offense here. Let's not play defense, okay? Let's play offense. Let's do the things we need to do to stop the problems before they happen.
All right, that's a good point. Fentanyl. As a U.S. Senator, how would you address that problem?
Well, it's the same kind of stuff. We need to shut the borders down. The fentanyl's not just coming from Mexico, it's coming from China, okay? We've become so weak in the last 4 years that everybody is running all over. So they're sending their drugs from China. They're sending their drugs from Venezuela. Look at the gangs and the trafficking. These illegal immigrants who are coming in through the southern border and the northern border are paying, some of them are paying the cartels just to let them in. So we need to stop the middleman, okay? We need to knock out the middleman who's charging people to get into the country with their drugs and with their illegal trafficking of sex trafficking. We need to step in and shut it all down. I mean, I'm repeating myself, but it's all about shutting it down. That's where you start. What we did in the 90s with quality of life, that's how we shut things down, right? Squeegee guys, turnstile, shut it down, set up a plan, and then slowly bring the right people in. And we're all immigrants in one way or another, right? Our parents, our grandparents, whoever it was. And there's nothing wrong with that. This is the melting pot, right, of the world. And that shouldn't be that way. But we need to come here the correct way. How do you think our ancestors feel if they were to know that people are just coming here and we're paying for their medical, we're paying for their education, we're giving them room and board? It's an embarrassment. And it's not what we should be doing as a country. We can't feed our vets. We can't get enough jobs for our vets. We have our own homeless people living on the streets. We just open those gates, bring as many people as should come in, and we'll take care of it.
And they don't like the food they're getting. Can you imagine that? We have to give them culturally acceptable food.
Listen, I just eat pasta every day, and I'm good. Once in a while, I'll have a corned beef sandwich, but other than that, I'm good. But yeah, you're right, though. You're right. And they think they're coming in here and they're gonna choose what they want and how they're gonna want to do it, right? And it shouldn't be that way. It has to stop.
Well, the problem I see when you're in the Senate is if you deport them, where are they going to go? You think Venezuela is going to take them back? It's been stated that Venezuela has emptied out their prisons, their insane asylums, and sent the undesirables here, just like Castro did back at the Mariel boat lift, years ago to from Cuba to Florida. 25% of those people were criminals. But
Right.
what country's going to take them back? That's something that would have to be worked on.
Well, and that's so important. And again, that's the foundation for how we're going to put plans into effect. We need to go to Venezuela. It'll be tough. There's countries I think that we have unlimited visa situations with. I think Venezuela might be one that we just allow them to come in on a visa. Stop the visas too. And I know we're not talking about the college campuses, but if you don't mind, I mean, look at the situation with the money we're giving students, right? Where the federal government is giving these institutions money, and we're giving these students on visas. You know what? If you're part of the protest and you're anti-Semitic, and you have the right to free speech, but if you're agitators, then let's take away your visas, throw you out of the country too. I know that doesn't answer your question about where you need to put them, but the first part of that plan has to be we have to know where they're going to go. We have to have a place where they have to go. Do we build something on the Mexican border? Do we work with Mexico? Do we work with other countries to bring these illegals and these deported peoples and the people we're taking the visas away? There's no quick plan, but we need some plan, and we need to start working on that as soon as possible.
Well, maybe if Trump gets his way with with oil drilling here in this country, you could threaten Venezuela. We'll not buy your oil unless you take back these people you sent to us. What do you
I
think?
like it. I mean, that's what we have to be. We have to be strong. We have to be strong and stand up to them, right? And Kevin, as a business guys, owning businesses, we realize you have to be strong.
Sure.
You can't be weak. You need to be reasonable, but you need to be strong. You need to set, hey, this is the expectations. This is what we want to do, and this is how we need to move forward. Okay, you don't want to do business with us? Okay, we're not helping you.
Right.
It's over. Our relationship is done. They'll come back.
Right.
Everybody will come back. If we're strong again and we set the groundwork, they'll come back to us. No one's running away from America. America is the only place where you actually have an American dream, okay? And people want to come here for that reason. There's opportunity here, and there always will be.
Mike, with your experience in law enforcement, what would you say is the most pressing security threats today against the United States?
Well, I think terrorism is. I truly do. And I think, we have to look at how weak we were. All of a sudden, Putin is invading Ukraine, right? A few years ago, right? Then you have October 7th, the Israel's 9/11,
Right.
where Hamas, through Iran, okay, that we gave $6 billion to, we gave them $6 billion, okay, and said, we'll use that for humanitarianism. Well, they did. In their eyes, that's humanitarianism, to wipe out the state of Israel, right? To wipe out Israel. And then look at China. China on the verge of taking Taiwan. We need to stand strong with these things and tell our allies to stand strong and tell our enemies, we're not going to tolerate what you're doing. We're not going to accept that. So I think by being a strong domestically, we become strong internationally. And I think if we're strong, that will make our allies stronger. What we're doing to Israel, it's a shame. Listen, war is a terrible thing. I hate to see war anywhere, but it's a reality. And it's not like Israel has broken any ceasefires. Hamas broke the ceasefire. Hamas went in and broke the ceasefire. And we're not talking about a nation, an ally. We're talking about a terrorist organization being paid for through Iran. And this is not acceptable. It's not acceptable.
I agree. Mike, we just have to take a time out to thank one of our sponsors, Good Greek Movers and Storage and Relocation. So if you just give me a moment. Good Greek Moving and Storage has been named National Mover of the Year and the most referred moving company in the U.S. Spiro Georgitakis, CEO and founder, was also a police officer, so he knows the importance of safety and the risk of moving. All of his movers are screened and drug tested to ensure your safety. His movers are professionally trained at the Good Greek Academy to learn how to wrap, pack, unpack, load, and unload your precious belongings on a safe trip to your home. Good Greek is your total relocation company that will help you find or sell a home, get your insurance, transport your car, take your junk, and move you. They are your one-stop shop, your relocation company. Good Greek Moving and Storage is also the official movers of 18 colleges and major league sports in the state of Florida. So whenever it is a move across town or across the country, trust America's best movers, Good Greek. Schedule your move today at goodgreek.com. Actually, I used, believe it or not, I used Good Movers, Good Greek Movers, and I moved from one location in New York to another location, probably about 80 miles away. And let me tell you something. They were great. With my experience with movers, they were fantastic. They actually called the day before to let me know what time they would be there. They called the day of to let me know if they, that if they would, when they're there, to let them know that they're there. And the next day they called to see how good it was. And believe me, across the board, 10. And I'm not just saying that. Anyone who knows me out there, I moved recently and I use Good Greek, and believe me, they do very well and I trust them. So Good Greek Movers if you're looking to move. Captain?
I wonder, just a quick question. I have a quick question. I wonder how, I'd love to use Good Greek. I wonder if they can move stuff from New York to Washington. And then I wondered if they can move Gillibrand's stuff from Washington back to wherever she's going to live after November.
I think that
We'll have to get that number again, Kevin.
You know what, Mike?
Okay?
The day you take office, we'll have that done. Sounds good. I'll give you
Very
your
good.
information. Absolutely.
Look forward.
Goodgreek.com.
Mike, as senator, how would you work with the president, who we hope will be Trump, to improve public safety across the United States? And would you have any special initiative to accomplish that task?
Well, I think I would, Cap. I think I've met the president several times in the last month or so, and we've had some discussions. And he knows how important New York State is to him, and he knows how important how hard I have to work, since we're outnumbered here by the Democrats by over 3.5 million. And he wants to work. He loves the idea of law enforcement. He's such a supporter of law enforcement and public safety. And Kevin, we know as people who've been in this business, if your employees aren't feeling safe, right? How do they get any work done? How do they get any accomplishments?
True.
And I know the president feels the same way as we feel. If the public doesn't feel safe, then we can't function as a community or as a city or as a state or as a country. So we need to make sure our citizens are safe and not afraid to walk down the streets. So I would look to a ton of initiatives, Cap. And I'm just talking off the top of my head. I would want to be more involved with the local authorities. Okay. I'd want to be more involved with community relations. I want to get involved with people and be able to talk to people and express and you know what I'm learning more and more now. You see, I like to talk. You see that for the last half an hour or so, right? But as a school board president, I learned to listen. I did. It's hard for me, but I learned to listen. And I think that's so important, listening to other people's ideas and seeing what you can do with those ideas. How do you tie them in, right? How do you make those things work? You can't solve every problem, but a lot of people have a lot of opinions, and a lot of them are good opinions. And you need to listen and tie it together. But I look forward to working with President Trump. I mean, I think there's so many great initiatives we can do throughout the country. But my goal is to make this a better city that we live in, that I grew up in, okay? And make this the great state it is as I travel these 62 counties and I meet all these different people. It's a huge state. People care. And if you care, things happen. The president cares. I care. We're going to bring this state back to where it belongs. We're going to make it a foundation here and a great stage for the rest of this country.
I've asked this question of several of our interviewees who are running for public office. Are you familiar with the Law Enforcement Administration that was around for a number of years, the LEAA?
Refresh my memory, sir. Okay, it sounds familiar to me, but maybe I'm not as prepped as I should be.
Is that from the 1920s there?
Don't feel bad because no one else remembered it. Let me give you a little background because I think it should be brought back.
Let me ask a question before you give me background. We're not talking about LEAP, are you?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So I knew it as LEAP. You tried to trick me with some other fancy letters.
LEAP was part of the LEAA was the umbrella organization, and LEAP was part of it. So you're familiar.
So when did you come on, Cap? What year did you come on?
I'm ashamed to say, 1959, January.
Okay. I was a mere 3 years old, okay? But I remember the educational part because I went to John Jay when I first came on the job. And, John Jay, if you work nights, you went days. If you work days, you went nights to school. And so many guys got such a great education, right?
Including me.
Well, there you go. And I think it's a great program. Why do we not have it? Why can't we find federal and state funds to do that? When we came on, and I guess all of us, you didn't need a college degree or an associate's degree.
No.
You just needed a high school diploma, right?
Right.
So I think it's such a great thing that to get our police officers and our supervisors better educated to move on. I mean, this is probably a bad thing I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. A high school diploma today, a college degree is pretty much like a high school diploma was in our days,
True.
right?
True.
Our kids need to have masters and doctorates, right, to get out there. But I mean, I think education, I'm very big on education. I fund a lot of different scholarship programs throughout the state, throughout the city in Long Island. I think it's a great program, Cap. I think it should be. We should get back to it.
Well, LEAP, yeah, you're right. LEAP, as I said in a recent interview, I went to college. It took 16 years to go through to get a master's degree. I went part-time through LEAP. Didn't cost me anything. The government paid for it, and thousands of cops across the country got an education just like you. And I think that LEAP, well, actually the LEAA should be brought back, because not only did they have the educational portion, they had the grant portion where the LEAA would give money to various schools, colleges, vendors, developers to, create law enforcement initiatives, equipment, and so on and so forth. It went beyond the educational part. But I really believe in the LEAP program. You know about it. You were in it, and I was in it. So when you're a senator, I think you should push for the reinstitution of the LEAA. Well, you might want to call it another name, but it was a great agency. And why it fell into
when
this
you guys
use, I
come
don't
down,
know.
when you come down to Washington in my office down there, let's talk about this. Let's have lunch.
Will you buy me
Okay.
lunch?
Talk
Okay.
about, we'll buy you lunch. Let's talk
Looking
about
forward
this.
to it.
Let's get a program started there. Let's talk about it without a doubt.
Looking forward to it. That'd be great, Mike.
Oh, I remembered what I wanted to say before. You would be the first, as far as I know, the first police officer to be a U.S. senator. Am I correct?
I think you're correct. I think you're correct.
And also, what's interesting is now there are like 4 people that would possibly be part of Congress. The very first congressman that I remember becoming a member of the Congress, the House of Representatives, was a police inspector named Fred Heineman, and that was years ago. And he was down south. Then Mario Biaggi, and then we have now
Anthony
D'Esposito.
Yep.
Great kid.
Yep.
Right.
Great kid.
We've had him on,
And
Anthony.
also, what's her name?
Allison Esposito's
Allison
running.
Esposito's running also.
Right.
So,
Allison, I spent a lot of time with Allison. Just a quick, and I call everybody kid, Kevin and Cap. It's just a cop thing, right? You could be
Right.
65. I'm still calling you kid. But Anthony, great detective, 7'3" guy, right? Really hard worker. I've watched Anthony since he was in the town council in Hempstead. You talk about a guy who has stepped up to the plate, and is not just serving his community well, but serving law enforcement well. Very proud of Anthony and what he's done and the way he's grown into this great congressman. And he's got a tough race, but we'll be behind him 1,000%. Great guy. And Allison, she ran with Lee Zeldin on that ticket, and they set a great foundation that we're going to build off of here, statewide. And she's a great young lady, I think retired inspector, a DI, maybe deputy inspector, right? And she really has a lot to say, good stuff. People are listening to her. She's got a tough election up there in her district, but I think she's going to do well. But these are great, I'm finding as I travel the state, I was up in Buffalo for a Support the Blue rally, and we ran another retired law enforcement person for Congress up there on a special election. He wasn't successful, but he's also been the county executive up there for a while. We're putting more retired law enforcement people into positions to accomplish things for this state. Okay? It's important. We're finding people with common sense, people who are not lifelong politicians, people who are lifelong service-orientated people to our constituents. And I think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread. I mean, I think it's great.
I agree.
I think it's great.
Well, if she wins, that would be 4 members of House of Representative, and and you would be the first senator. So I think New York City actually is setting the trend for
NYPD
and the New York City Police Department actually is setting
And the transit cops, so a little of the transit cops still thrown in there. But yes, you're right.
All right,
NYPD, that's right.
we'll throw transit in also. But it's interesting because I think this is a very different time in history where police officers are becoming members of Congress. And they bring a lot of experience with them. They how to do things.
And I love it. I just love because people are starting to say, "Hey, you're that guy, Mike the cop, right? You're that guy, Mike the cop, running for Senate, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's me. I'm that guy, Mike the cop, right?" And I think in that with my business background, being able to bring people to both people from both sides of my clients to do best practices. I think it all fits, and I think we're dying. This country is dying for common sense. They're dying to get ahead and do well. And I'm saying on the trail, listen, I'm the conservative Republican candidate for the United States Senate here in the state of New York. But these aren't just conservative and Republican issues. These are American issues we're facing. So everybody can relate to the issues that are going on. So, and I think that's a big deal. And those are the voters we need to win over, those independent voters, those Democratic voters who are fed up and tired. And as I travel, I'm having a lot of people say to me, they're tired. Look, one more second. I know I don't stop, Cap, but one more second.
It's fine.
If you go to, I was at a rally with President Trump several weeks ago down at the new Chase building, JP Morgan Chase, their building.
Yeah.
And those steam fitters, they're a democratic society. The steam fitters are Democrats right across the board forever, right? And their president, one of their leaders stood up and said, "We're tired." They were so excited to see President Trump down there speaking to them a couple of weeks ago. And they said, "We're tired. We're tired of the way things are here in New York City, the way things are working for labor, the way things are working for our great city and our great state. And we need a change." And you know what? Change is good.
Yeah.
As cops, we don't really like change a lot, right? Sometimes we get a little worked up, right? But change is good. Yeah. And you need change. And this is the time.
Mike, just to swing back to what you mentioned about the merger. I know Housing Police Department and Transit Police Department didn't want the merger, but either did the city cop either.
I know.
But welcome. It's been a great marriage since.
Well, you know what? And the fun part was going to Central Booking in the old Central Booking, right? Maybe. And cops always carry their pay stubs, okay? Just something that happens. And they put it in a memo book, and whatever. And they would say, like, "Oh, did you guys wait over there? It's going to be a while." I remember saying, like, "Oh, what does that mean?" "Oh, I might be here 8, 9, 10 hours. "Oh, so let me take my pay stub out here and say, "Oh, wow, you had your pay stub? Wow, that's what you made. Yeah, I'll wait back there another 12 hours or so, right?"
Exactly.
But
good stuff.
Listen, they were great. They're all great jobs.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. It's all
the
good.
relationships we made stay
great.
forever. Right?
Absolutely. Friends for life, right? Families, friends for life. Mike, if anyone wanted to get in contact with you or get involved in your campaign, how would they go about that?
So it's Mike Sapraicone for Senate.com. You can find me at Mike Sapraicone for Senate.com. Look up my name, show my website pops. Listen, Gillibrand has over $9 million, so I'm not good at asking, but we need help. Any campaign needs help. This is a big campaign. It's a statewide campaign, so every penny helps. I appreciate whatever anybody can do, or volunteering and being part of the team. We have a great team, and I appreciate that, Kevin. It's important. Mike Sapraicone for Senate.com. But the name of the show, Cop Talk, just makes me think so much how we have that gift. No matter where we go in this state, or I've traveled the world with my business,
true,
we are able to talk cop.
Right. True.
Those things that other people, we could go anywhere. I've been all over the world, and you meet a cop, and it's like you've been working with that guy forever. The stories are the same, maybe in a different language or a couple of different things. But how proud I am to have been a member of the New York City Police Department, and it wouldn't have propelled me into the business. I'm sure, Kevin, you feel the same way about your business.
Absolutely.
It gave us that opportunity, and it gives me this great platform here to talk about. And I've had people tell me they wouldn't even talk to me. Then they found out I was a cop and said, well, we could chat.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big deal. And I think this is important to stress real quickly. With all the garbage we're going through, where people defund the police and everything else, the majority of the people in this city, in this country, in this state respect the police. They care for the police, and they know they need the police. And I think that's so important. And, I look at some of our cops who go through some tough stuff. And I was at Detective Dilla's funeral a few months ago, and we know how many we've been to those over our careers. It's always something sad. And his wife was so strong and did such a great job in the eulogy. But people still do respect us. We need to respect ourselves. We need to always earn that respect from the public. But I think it's still there.
True. I was at the funeral as well for Detective Dilla, and I was very impressed in how the community, Massapequa Park, Massapequa, Long Island, Nassau County came out. All the residents, handing out anything from water to Gatorade to whatever you needed. I mean, they were fantastic. Letting you park in their driveways. They were really, really good. Great support in Long Island, Nassau County. For Detective Dilla. But Captain.
Well, Mike, it's been a great interview, and I want to say that the transit cops were very good because they worked alone on the subway system, and I had a great respect for them because of that. They worked independently, and I know a lot of them were reluctant to come over to the PD because they felt that they wouldn't have the same operational abilities that they had as transit. But they were good cops. They really were.
The hard workers, I agree. I'm going to throw one more dig at you really quick before we leave, though. So we didn't have any windows, and you call windows to roll up, okay? So in the train, you was by yourself, you walk around. You couldn't just roll up the window and pull away. It was stuck there. You had to stay and talk. Right?
Yeah.
But,
okay.
So guys, thank you so much. This was great. I had a lot of fun. I hope I was okay with you.
You were great, Mike. We can't wait to have you on again, and we'll have you on after you win the election. Everyone, Mike Sapraicone, running for U.S. Senate. Get the vote out. Mike, one more time, your website?
Mike Sapraicone for Senate.com. So thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Look us up. And one more really important thing. Vote. Make sure you vote. Register and go vote. The young people, the older people, you need to vote. You can't moan and groan about something if you don't get out there and vote.
Get the vote out in November. November, correct? November
5th.
November 5th. Get the vote out. Mike Sapraicone, U.S. Senate. Thank you, Mike, for being our guest today. Everyone, if you like what you hear, please subscribe to Cop Talk. You could also follow us on Twitter at Cop Talk WABC. That's at Cop Talk WABC. Until next time, God bless law enforcement throughout the world. God bless America. And God bless you. Be safe out there. Thank you.
Hello, folks. Larry Kudlow here. Pay attention, because China is leading the largest anti-American alliance since World War II. One that's already dumped U.S. bonds, grabbed 43 million acres of our farmland, and is plotting to dethrone the dollar. That's why IRA and 401k savers are protecting their savings with gold. Please go to freegoldguide.com/Kudlow or just call 800-621-3908 for your free gold guide on how to protect your wealth with gold 100% tax-free.